Chapter 13, Toward More Effective Implementation of Evidence-Based Practice. This summary is from the original text written by Priscilla Arling from Butler University, Rebecca Fox from Texas State, and Bradley Dobing from Indiana University. Unfortunately, this is not a very good chapter. It has many of the general platitudes about what's wrong with the healthcare system, and then provides some very wishy-washy high-level concepts about how evidence-based practice can be implemented better. I would have strongly preferred if this chapter instead had real case studies on how evidence-based practice can be implemented rapidly and scaled, specifically addressing the social, cultural, and technological considerations that make successful evidence-based practice implementations. I would have liked to have read how electronic medical records are able to use evidence-based reminders well. And to conclude, it would have been interesting to see how industries outside of healthcare are able to move their research innovations quickly into the factory and shop. Anyway, let's get through the chapter. It opens talking about evidence-based practice and with the standard concerns of the current healthcare system, how in the United States, it generally misses the mark, as around half of patients receive unnecessary care, and under half of physicians use, quote, recommended processes of care, end quote, whatever recommended processes of care are. It does quote that Americans with hypertension, only 70% are diagnosed, 60% are treated, and 30% are controlled. And it's estimated that 30 to 40% of healthcare expenditures are associated with overuse, underuse, misuse, duplication, system failures, unnecessary repetition, poor communication, and inefficiency. And we have both problems with fragmentation, meaning that the patient has different clinical settings, as well as multiple levels of care, providing care at all these layers. And so we have horizontal and vertical fragmentation, which does not interact. They propose in the chapter something called the Paris framework, which has three components: evidence, context, and facilitation. Evidence being the quality of the research, the clinical expertise, and the patient preferences. Context of the place the evidence is being implemented, such as its culture, leadership, and evaluation. And facilitation, which is ultimately what is needed to change people's attitudes and behaviors based on the evidence and context. A large part of the chapter discusses social capital theory, which is defined as the obligations, expectations, and trustworthiness that people have, in that they trust each other because when they do something for one person, they expect that someone will reciprocate and do something nice for them. The second part of social capital theory is that there's information channels and that there's, quote, norms and sanctions. Two subsections of this are social network analysis, NSA. Social network analysis is mapping of people in an organization and their relationships to each person. Each person is a node, and that relationship is a line. And you can draw a map where some people may have many lines emanating from them and multiple thicker lines, suggesting that there are a stronger node in the network analysis. And the chapter rightfully suggests that disseminating information through people in the network who may be influencers or stronger nodes may be a faster way to bring evidence-based practice into a community. Social network analysis is actually very interesting, and Neil Ferguson writes quite a lot about it in his book, The Square and the Tower, which came out in 2018. And the last part of social capital theory, the subsection on communities of practice, and this was a group of individuals with a common interest that get together around this interest or topic or issue, and they learn both through explicit instruction from each other as well as tacit knowledge and exchange. Anyway, unfortunately, there wasn't much to get out of this chapter, but I do like the concept of fragmentation, that there's horizontal fragmentation, meaning multiple clinics, acute care, ambulatory care, chronic care, diabetes clinic, primary care clinic, hospital, admission, surgical admission. So you have horizontal fragmentation, as well as you have vertical fragmentation. Within each of these clinics, you have different layers and different levels of providers who are caring for you. So you have a three-dimensional level of chaos using this analogy, and I quite like that.